Here's a full 900-word story in English based on your title. Margaret Harper's life had always been quiet, the kind of peaceful existence that most in her small mining town could only dream of. Her husband, Thomas, was a hard-working miner, the backbone of their family. Every morning, she kissed him goodbye as he went down into the earth, praying silently that he would return safely. But on this fateful morning, something felt different, a heaviness in her chest that she could not shake. Hours later, the news spread through the village like wildfire. There had been an explosion deep inside the mine. Miners were trapped. Margaret's world collapsed. Her husband, Thomas, may never come back. Panic surged through her veins as she clutched her youngest son, James, a boy of only 10, who had been playing near the mine entrance just hours earlier. The mine had always been dangerous, but accidents were usually minor. This, however, was different. The explosion had caused a collapse, blocking tunnels and cutting off airflow. Margaret felt the cold grip of fear tighten around her heart. If she lost Thomas, she could bear it, but losing James too. That was unthinkable. Sheriff Jack Redford, a large and resolute man known throughout the county for his bravery, arrived at Margaret's door. His eyes met hers, filled with both sorrow and determination. "Margaret," he said gently, "I know your heart is breaking, but your son will be safe. I swear, I will do everything in my power to get him out." Margaret nodded silently, tears streaming down her face. She clung to James, whose small frame trembled against her. The sheriff's words offered a sliver of hope, but the weight of the situation pressed down heavily. Jack was not just a lawman, he was someone who had risked his life countless times to save others. Yet even he understood the dangers of the mine after an explosion. Hours passed. Smoke and dust billowed from the mine entrance, and rescuers worked tirelessly to clear debris and secure the tunnels. Jack led a team into the dark, suffocating passages, every step a battle against falling rocks and choking dust. The collapse had cut off air and light, making the rescue a race against time. Back on the surface, Margaret paced anxiously. James clung to her side, whispering questions that she could not answer. Every sound from the mine, a falling stone, a distant shout, made her heart leap into her throat. Yet she dared not lose hope. Jack had promised her son's safety. Inside the mine, Jack pressed forward. The passageways were treacherous, and each step could trigger another collapse. He moved carefully, shouting words of encouragement to those trapped. When he finally found Thomas, it was too late. Thomas had succumbed to the accident. Jack paused, letting the moment of grief settle, then turned his focus to James. A small cry echoed through a collapsed shaft. Jack followed the sound and found James, huddled behind a rock, terrified but alive. The boy's eyes widened with recognition as Jack extended his hand. "It's okay, James. I've got you," he said firmly. The boy took the sheriff's hand, trembling, but trusting him completely. Jack navigated the treacherous tunnels, guiding James back toward safety. Every inch of progress was a struggle against falling debris and suffocating dust. Finally, they emerged into the daylight, where Margaret had been waiting, her arms open. She scooped James into a fierce embrace, tears mingling with dirt on his small face. "You're safe, my boy," she whispered, her voice breaking. The village watched in awe as Jack carried out the remaining miners, risking his own life for the lives of others. Margaret could hardly speak, her gratitude overwhelming. Thank you," she managed to say, clutching both her son and the sheriff's hand. Jack simply nodded, his humility shining through. "I did what any man should do," he replied quietly. In the days that followed, the mine's tragic explosion left its mark on the community. Memorials were held for Thomas and others who had perished. But for Margaret and James, the ordeal was also a story of heroism and hope. Jack's bravery had saved James's life, and for that, they would be forever grateful. Margaret planted a small garden in memory of Thomas, a place where she and James could reflect on the past while honoring the lives lost. Every morning, they would tend to the flowers, and Margaret would tell James about his father, about the courage and sacrifice that had shaped their lives. And she would speak of Jack, the sheriff who had risked everything to ensure that they remained a family. Over time, the story of that day became legendary in the town. People would recount the sheriff's daring rescue and Margaret's strength in the face of unimaginable loss. James grew up with a profound understanding of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of human compassion. Margaret often thought about Thomas, about the love they had shared, and about how one man's bravery had preserved her son's life. Though grief remained, she found solace in knowing that even in the darkest hours, hope and humanity could shine through. And as James grew older, He carried with him the lessons of that day, that bravery was not just about strength, but about selflessness, and that love for family could inspire acts of extraordinary courage. Life in the village slowly returned to normal, but the memory of the mine, of loss, and of heroism lingered. Margaret and James never forgot the day that could have taken them apart, but instead, had brought them closer to the kindness and bravery of one man willing to risk everything. In the quiet of their home, Margaret would sometimes look at the sky and whisper a thank you to Jack, the sheriff who had given her son back to her, and a quiet goodbye to Thomas, whose memory would live on forever. It was a story of sorrow, but also of courage, resilience, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child, a bond strengthened by the selfless bravery of another. And so, in that small mining town, the legend of the sheriff's courage and a mother's love endured, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments, hope and humanity could prevail. If you want, I can also create 5 image prompts for this story that could be used for YouTube thumbnails or a storyboard. Do you want me to do that next?